Right, friends, welcome back to Learning Space. This is the honest appraisal of Civil Services Preliminary 2023 GS1 paper. I am concentrating on current affairs and wherever possible, current affairs linked with some static elements. So, before going ahead, let me talk a bit about myself. I am teaching current affairs for the past 8 years. Wherever possible, I am expanding the current affairs domain to link various static elements, whether it is economy, whether it is science and technology, whether it is ecology and environment, whether it is polity. So, my experience, or you can say my domain, is purely current affairs and wherever possible linking with static elements. And after the examination of GS1 paper, I tried attempting this question paper. I attempted straight away 47 questions, out of which 5 are either wrong or doubtful. So, on my own, without any assistance, I attempted to answer various questions pertaining to current affairs and also linked with some static elements. In this process, I answered 47 questions. 42 are perfectly correct. 5 whether they are doubtful or wrong. And in this context, I expect the students benefit a lot who followed current affairs modules which were produced by me during the past 1 or 2 years. So let me tell you one more important aspect, the mistakes done by the students. First is, most of the students are simply downloading the PDFs. Whether it is current affairs or editorial discussions, they are simply downloading and going through that material. That material is good, excellent, no doubt about it. But in addition to that material, any time when any issue is discussed in these lectures, I try to expand orally. Orally, I explain many things. Suppose if you are talking about coal sector, there are some aspects in the PPT, but more than that, much more than that, I explain 7-8 points in 360-degree way. So that's why I remember most of the things asked in these questions. And here, 42 questions, they directly came from my lectures for the past 1.5 years. And I repeat wherever possible. And majority of the things got repeated 3-4 times during the past 1.5 years in my lectures. Of course, 7-8 questions I told only once. And for each and every question, I will try to recollect where I taught this. What was the situation when this issue came to the forefront? All these things I am going to explain you honestly. And you may ask a straight question. If we follow your lectures for the past 1.5 years, can we answer 42 questions correctly? It may not be possible. Some of the things you may not remember. As I am repeating most of the things quite often, you can easily answer at least 30 to 35 questions. 30 questions, 100% sure. And that gives you required competitive edge. That means here to qualify the examination, 10 questions or 5 questions makes a lot of difference. So you get the required competitive edge. But the mistakes what the students are doing is they are just simply following some test series. At the same time, monthly modules. Some of the institutions are releasing monthly booklets. And another important thing is they just go through the handouts. They don't listen to various expert aspects delivered through lectures. These are the mistakes being done by them. But one important thing I would like to tell you, UPSC is looking at comprehensive knowledge of the person, whether it is economy, whether it is geography, whether it is science and technology, whether it is current affairs. It is looking at linking current affairs with static, that is one part. Second part is, it is not concentrating on the past 7-8 months or 6 months. It is looking at the comprehensive knowledge of the student for the past 3-4 years. That means whether the student is aware about what is happening across the world and in India during the past 3-4 years. That is how the UPSC is looking at. Of course, in some of the examinations, it may concentrate more on facts. In some, it may concentrate more on concepts. This time, more facts are there. Another important thing this time is it concentrated on for the past 3-4 years, whatever is happening. BCIM corridor, for example, that is very old one. Trilateral highway, old one. Like that, there are number of things in the question paper where 3-4 years horizon. That is the precise reason in my lectures I normally repeat many things. And in the current affairs modules, through various formats like random thoughts, trends talk, I try to repeat many things. But what is happening is many students, they are dependent upon handouts. That is the biggest mistake. Second is, whenever I am repeating several things, please listen to them. Please listen to my lectures at least 2 times, 3 times. It is worth, not only in the prelims. You get a lot of information to write mains also, to write essay also. And another important point is, whenever I am teaching, I not only look at these things, I go much beyond. That will be highly beneficial. That will improve your comprehensive ability, analytical ability. But the students continue to do similar mistakes, like going through handouts, looking at for the past 6-7 months, looking at only revision modules. So friends, after this examination, I decided to expand further the current affairs modules and editorial discussions to review or recollect the things for the past 3-4 years wherever required. And don't learn the things in isolation. If you learn the things in isolation, you don't remember. So there is something which is linked with some other thing, then only you will recollect. How are you remembering the movie after watching the movie? Because it is one is connected with the other. So therefore, please follow learning space lectures, both current affairs and editorial discussions. And if you watch all these lectures, you get the required competitive edge. Don't make a mistake of just going through handouts, just going through some monthly bulletins released by some organizations. That will not help. If you look at any sector, renewable energy sector, if you look at coal sector, you should have comprehensive knowledge. If you look at all these questions, it is clearly evident. Please follow learning space lectures. Definitely they give you the required competitive edge. Some students may raise questions with regard to how do I remember all these things. You may not remember all these things, but I am making you to remember these things by repeating 3-4 times within 1 year. At the same time, the world issues for the past 3-4 years, I am including in random thoughts and in many other formats of current affairs. What is the need for me to tell you what happened 3-4 years ago? Because that is important. And that is also required to have continuity. Right? So therefore, please do not do the mistake. Second is, UPSC is concentrating the comprehensive knowledge any student has, whether it is current affairs or static or CSAT, whatever it is. So another important thing is luck factor is gradually getting eliminated. Here 3 options are correct, 2 pairs are correct. That system is introduced. Assertion and reason, that is also introduced. So therefore luck factor is going to be eliminated as you go forward. You should have comprehensive knowledge, and whatever I speak in the lectures, don't ignore anything. And if you do not remember certain things, please do not bother, because that issue I will definitely repeat after 1 month or 2 months. Right? So please follow learning space lectures and let us look at question by question. I am going to explain for some of the questions where I taught these things. First one, Kamarajar Port. Many of you, in fact, might have put wrong answer for this. Major port, I explained Port Authorities Bill where ports are converted to landlord ports. Previously, 11 ports were working as trust model, and Kamarajar port, that is Ennur port, is the first major port where the company model is adopted, that is different from 11 other ports. These things I explained in the editorial clearly, and many things I taught as far as ports bill is concerned. That is around 1 year back. And I explained many other things. How the port is classified as major port. A port is classified as major port when a parliament makes a law. All these things I explained. And in fact, this Kamarajar port or Ennur port, I repeated. I explained Ennur port, Kattupalli port, Chennai port, they are very close. And Mundra port, I told you Mundra port, it is the largest privately owned port, and in fact through the maps I explained 3-4 times during the past 1 year. And I also told you the largest container port is JNPT or Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust. That I told you around 1 month ago. In fact, you may have a specific doubt whether how can I remember these things? For improving your remembrance, what I am doing is I am producing beautiful maps. I am repeating 3-4 times. I am explaining contextually to various editorials. I am linking one with the other. For each and every question, I will explain you the context. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult. You see this question. This is repeated fall in the sea level. Please recollect, I explained Shravan, Kevadia and Guneri. Shravan, Kevadia and Guneri, I told you 3-4 times. Even recently also in the random thought I explained. What are these? These are the mangrove forests in the land. How they are there? Because normally mangroves are at the confluence of some river with the sea. But these are on the land. We discussed Ran of Kutch. If you go back million years ago, then the sea receded gradually. That's why they became in between, just isolated spots. Please recollect Shravan, Kevadia and Guneri. You can say any question. Look at the next one. This is about ilmenite. I discussed about this particular mineral when I discussed joint replacement surgeries and dental implants. For the dental implants, titanium is used. At the same time, for the joint replacement surgeries, titanium is used. At that particular point of time, I discussed about the ore of this particular titanium and ilmenite. This titanium is the right answer. Look at the next question. This is cobalt. While talking about lithium, cobalt, all these metals which are required in present day electric vehicles, I told you about ABC triangle. I talked about this Democratic Republic of Congo where around 70% of this cobalt is produced and there is a lot of pollution is there and people are not bothering about environment. These things we discussed. In fact, it is not far away. If you look at the next one, this is in fact Congo Basin. In fact, Africa map, Nile River, Congo River. I explained through maps. If you look at the Nile River, there is White Nile, Blue Nile. White Nile means Uganda, South Sudan. So ultimately this Blue Nile, White Nile, they merge at Khartoum. So this Uganda as well as South Sudan, they are part of this Nile River Basin. And if you see this Nigeria and Cameroon, I explained with the map sometime back. Nigeria is somewhere top in comparison to Cameroon. Cameroon is close to this DRC. So maps are very, very important. I showed you number of maps. And this Cameroon you can easily identify if you look at the maps, if you keep the picture of map in your mind. Look at the next question. Friends, this golden quadrilateral project, that is east-west, north-south, connecting 4 metros. Please look at map-based current affairs. I have given beautiful map connecting Porbandar to Silchar, right? And trilateral highway. Quite often I repeat this about trilateral highways, starting from Moreh in Manipur, right up to Mesot. Mesot is the place in Thailand. It passes through this Myanmar. This is the trilateral highway. And here BCIM corridor, Kolkata, Kunming. And these things I explain quite often. Of course, this issue was discussed around 1 year ago. And quite often I repeat, if you look at the map-based current affairs, if you look at learning space maps, these three are available. In fact, this trilateral highway, recently I have shown you once again. BCIM corridor, these quadrilaterals, these maps are there in the map-based current affairs which we produced around 10 modules or so. And if you look at the next question, this uranium deposits. Here you see, look at the second question, second statement. If you look at the second statement, you see uranium enriched to the extent of at least 60% is required for the production of electricity. I told you 1 month ago, 3 to 5% is required for producing electricity. Even in the revision also I told 3 to 5%. Around 80-90% is required for manufacturing atomic bombs. This I repeated in the revision modules also, because this came to the forefront because of Iran. As per the Iran nuclear deal, it should not exceed 3.67% enrichment. And 3 to 5% is required for producing this nuclear power. And now Iran got up to around 80% or so. That's why this is into the news. I told you clearly 3 to 5%. And what is enrichment? All these things I explained. So the second statement is clearly wrong. And if you understand the second statement is clearly wrong, then C becomes the option. If you do not know first statement also, C becomes the answer. Then microorganisms. These things I explained. I will tell you the instance also. I have taken you to the Arctic region. In the Arctic region, what is happening? Thawing of the permafrost is taking place. Because of the thawing of the permafrost, several microorganisms are just coming out into the environment. You see sub-freezing temperatures there. And these microorganisms can survive under varied conditions I explained. Even in the highly acidic conditions, they can exist. And at very high temperatures. I have taken some location of Africa to explain that. And then you see, these are all contextually I explained. These 3 points I explained when I talked about the issue pertaining to release of microorganisms from the Arctic region. Of course, these 2 things I told only once. I have not repeated this. But many things, this one was repeated almost 5-6 times. And similarly, this trilateral highway was repeated around 4-5 times. This east-west corridor, of course, 1 year back, I have shown in the maps. And if you see like that, this Africa map, Nile River Basin, Congo River Basin, quite often I am repeating. And you see, this is many central banks provide. This is very, very simple question. I explained in the editorial discussion after COVID-19. In fact, inflation is the problem. To control inflation, they are increasing the interest rates, a sharp increase in the interest rates. And they feel they can tackle inflation because of monetary policy, or you can say generally assume that they have the ability to counteract the rise in consumer prices via monetary policy means. But sometimes it may not be correct. That also I explained in the editorial. They assume this, but sometimes when there are input problems, it is not possible to counteract this inflation only with monetary policy. That I explained clearly in the editorial. Friends, sterilization, very important. That is, in fact, this sucking of the money circulation, open market operations, and many things. Very, very simple question. And you see this capital markets, money markets. I explained this number of times. Under the money markets, call money, treasury bill market, remaining 2 are capital markets. Friends, this nicer seeds, I explained in the current affairs for around 5 minutes, around 7-8 months ago, stating that the nicer seeds, the production is on decline. It is exclusive kharif crop grown in the tribal areas, and out of the 7 oil seed crops where minimum support price mechanism is there, nicer seeds is one of them. And they use it for cooking purposes, tribals. All these things, you see the PPTs, all 3 are available clearly in the PPTs. Then this brand recognition, intellectual property, mailing list of clients, and here intangible investments, and here tangible, intangible. I explained number of types, but here one confusion may come to the student with regard to whether mailing list of clients, whether it will be intangible. But as per Investopedia and common sense also says, when such lists are available, then they can try to achieve more value. That's why this is intangible asset. And here this I have explained number of times. 15th Finance Commission, what is the criteria followed? You see, 15th Finance Commission gave report around 1.5 years ago. Still a question is asked. This I explained in the revision module also. In the revision module, I told you the income distance, that is around 45% or so. Then the population is based on 2011 population. Some weightage is there. Forest and ecology, some weightage is there. And because of 2011 population figures, here what is happening is southern states who control population, they are the losers. That's why to satisfy the southern states, what the 15th Finance Commission has done is, these two criteria is added. One is demographic performance, tax efforts. Listen to whatever I am saying with crystal clear clarity. Some students are doing 2x. You are going with 2x speed. What you will understand? What you will think? Friends, after teaching current affairs for so many years, I am able to answer easily many questions. Please follow whatever I am teaching. Then you will reap the benefits. Due process of law, procedure established by law. These two things I explained clearly in the 300 words module. I presented 300 words. Check it. Due process of law, procedure established by law. Procedure established by law means whatever is written in the law, you have to follow it simply. Due process of law means whether the laws are fair or not, you have to look at. So it is a fair application of law. That is what is this due process of law. But there may be some confusion here with regard to the principle of natural justice. But the apt answer here is a fair application of law. I explained this. This fair application of law, I used it 2-3 times the same word when I am explaining this in the 300 words modules. Friends, the chief purpose of the Constitution, that is to limit the government power. Because when the government have unlimited powers, citizens are the worst sufferers. You see in the authoritarian countries. So the Constitution's main purpose is it defines and limits the powers of the government. I explained number of times in the editorial discussions and various other modules. Friends, this constitutional amendment believed to be enacted to overcome the judicial interpretations of the fundamental rights. Friends, 2 cases I explained in the editorial discussion. In the year 1949-50, that means after 50-51 or so, somewhere like that. In the year 50-51, the judicial interpretation of the fundamental rights. 2 cases are there. I am not able to recollect. One pertains to one magazine in Chennai, some communist magazine. And these 2 things I explained in the editorial because the 2 adverse judgments with regards to fundamental rights, that was the origin of first constitutional amendment. I explained in the editorial discussion around 7-8 months ago. Right? Then here National Commission for Backward Classes. Yes, it got constitutional status. Most of you are well aware. And National Human Rights Commission, I explained recently, it is based on 1993 law. That means it is statutory. And even Law Commission, I explained for 2-3 years there were no members of the Law Commission. And it is just executive body. And this Consumer Protection Act, this Redressal Commission, that is based on Consumer Protection Act. Very simple question. If you are following regularly current affairs, because you see, these 4 things will not be told by anyone straight away at one location. But because of your experience, you will interpret and put the right answers. That is how the UPSC examination answers you have to write. Right? This finance bill, money bill. In fact, I told you, of course, it is around 1 year, 1.5 year. Here, all finance bills, that means all financial bills are not money bills. All money bills, that means all the financial bills. You see, the finance bill comes under financial bill category. So all the financial bills are not money bills. Money bills means Rajya Sabha power is limited. But these financial bills, they can have other features also. If a finance bill has got only the features pertaining to this elements of this union budget without any other elements, then it becomes money bill. But it need not be. So this I explained around 1 year ago. And here this Nagaraja judgment, subsequently some other judgment, 2-3 judgments we discussed in editorial discussions around 2-3 times. So in those discussions we discussed about the efficiency parameter in giving promotions to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. Nagaraja judgment and some other judgment, they differ with each other. Those things we discussed in detail. And there this article 335 came into picture. And the second point, you see, Constitution does not define many things. As simple as that. Because if Constitution defines efficiency of administration, then what is the need for Nagaraja judgment and some other judgment? Because Constitution does not define it. Right? So 2-3 editorials we deliberated on that. Friends, own satellite navigation system. Quite often I repeat GPS, United States of America, then Galileo, that is of Europe, then GLONASS of some other country, and that is of Russia. Then I discussed Beidou, that is of China. These are GPS, but regional GPS is there. India's IRNSS and similar thing for Japan. I told you 2-3 times this aspect. Right? So Japan is the right answer. Here you see, in the revision also I explained these things. Ballistic missiles, they are based on gravity. Cruise missiles are directly through the path, guided through the path. First statement is straight away wrong. This Agni 5, here you see, Agni 5 is supersonic. This is wrong because BrahMos missile I talked about, that is the supersonic missile. Friends, these two things I explained in the recent revision modules and of course repeated number of times previously. Friends, where I taught it, of course, this question I taught only once. What was the circumstance? The circumstances of teaching this particular item is imposing mercury pollution for the thermal power plants. Thermal power plants, mercury pollution limit imposed is 0.03 or so. That is mg per m cube or something like that. And in that context, there are other provisions also like NOx emissions, SOx emissions, particulate matter. All these are stipulated for the thermal power plants who are commissioned on or after 2017. In that context, I explained the mercury pollution is the problem of thermal power plants. Similarly, in the gold industry, mercury pollution, and there are no safe levels of exposure to mercury. These 3 points I told, but I told only once when I was discussing that. It may be difficult to remember, right? And here, green hydrogen I explained number of times. Here you see, it can be blended with natural gas. Simple statement. I talked about HCNG even in the revision also. Hydrogen is blended up to 18% with CNG. And second is hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. Yes. And this one I told only once. For internal combustion it can be used, but it is useless. Right? So these 3 statements are correct. But first statement many of you might not remember. That's why I told you out of these 42 questions, you can easily answer around 30-35. Some of them are quite typical and I told only once. You may not recollect. Right. And look at the next one. I told you this Ukraine map 3-4 times. And I told you clearly Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, they are having Baltic Sea border. So this Latvia, Lithuania simply ruled out. And another important aspect is here Romania and Bulgaria, with regard to these 2 countries, I explained clearly Bulgaria that shares boundary with the Black Sea but not with Ukraine. So here the right answer is Hungary and Romania. Czech Republic is quite far away. And I have shown you Ukraine map number of times, even in the revision also I explained. This is the sequence of boundary for this particular country. This country is very important because it is into the news. Wolbachia bacteria. In fact, this is to control the mosquitoes spread. And next one, MSMEs. After recent amendments, I told you 10, 50, 250. It is multiplied by here 10, then multiplied by 5. That one I told you recently also in the revision. This is wrong. And all the bank loans here you see micro, small or priority sector lending. This also I explained in various lectures. Then central bank digital currency. First statement most of you are well aware. Second, you may not recollect. I told you an important aspect in the context of digital currency, yuan, that is of China's digital currency, where there is a time limit specified, China specified time limit for its digital currency yuan. Right. The next one is self-help groups. This first statement I told you a number of times. The bank linkage program was initiated by NABARD. That is known to each one of you. And here you see through my editorials several times I explained India does not concentrate on preventive care, promotive care. That is most important. Preventive care. How to prevent diseases, how to promote healthcare. India is not concentrating on these things. In number of times in the editorials I explained this. And India focuses on curative care. Right statement. And second one you see, state governments are responsible for organized health services. Fine. Right statement. Several times we told you, whenever something happens, central government says, it is the responsibility of the state government because healthcare, that is the responsibility of the state. So these things are evident when you watch regular current affairs. But this is not the right explanation for one. Right? Then this is civic strife, food shortages, Somalia, and this one I explained with map also. There is violence taking place in Somalia at the same time. Drought conditions, severe drought conditions, food shortages. In fact, we discussed in the current affairs. Biodiversity management committees I discussed 2 times in the editorials as well as in the current affairs as well as in the recent revision modules. This is National Handloom Day in the current affairs. When we mentioned about National Handloom Day, that is the day in 1905 when the Swadeshi movement started. And similarly, Constitution Day in the current affairs, I explained clearly. Constitution Day means everyone signed on the Constitution. Right? These are from the current affairs. Switzerland. Yes. When I explained the trade between India and Switzerland, India purchases gold from Switzerland. In fact, Switzerland, there are no known gold reserves there. That means it is not having second largest gold reserves. This is wrong. But what happens is gold comes there. It became the trading center. In fact, Belgium means gems and jewelry. So here you see gold. That is Switzerland. So these things I explained number of times. You have to continuously listen to editorial discussions and current affairs. I am repeating many things. When I am discussing trade with various countries, I explained this point. It is not having gold reserves, but still, not many countries purchase gold from Switzerland because other countries sell to Switzerland. It became the market. And this India accounts for 3.2% of global export of goods. How many times I told you? As far as the global goods are concerned, India's share is 1.7%. Services are concerned, 3.4%. It is 1.7, it is 3.4. And recently government said this 1.7 became somewhere around 2. So the first statement is straight away wrong. And you know the first statement is straight away wrong. You can answer this question straight away. D is the option. And second statement also, I told you production linked incentive PLI scheme, both Indian companies, foreign companies are allowed for incentives. I told this 3-4 times. Then look here, Armenia and Azerbaijan, Nagorno-Karabakh region. I told you number of times. So this must be for this. So it is wrong. And this North Kivu Ituri, this was never heard pertaining to Armenia and Azerbaijan. Then Kherson and Zaporizhia. Zaporizhia is quite often in the news and that pertains to Ukraine. So then Israel has established diplomatic relations with Arab states. Yes, Abraham Accords. I told you recently also brokered by United States of America. And this Arab Peace Initiative, this was very old. This is nothing to do with Israel now. And very straight away you can answer this question. Then Donbass region, that is in Ukraine. Then Kachin, people are migrating from Kachin region into Manipur, Mizoram. And it is creating tensions that I told you with the northeast map. And they are having some similarity of ethnicity. So that's why it may create tensions in future. Then Tigray region with map, beautiful maps, I explained this part of Ethiopia. Then these countries, Sudan, then Chad, Guinea, Mali, of course, successful course, most of you are well aware. Then for the decarbonization, these three things are mentioned quite often with regard to green hydrogen. Then G20 group, this was told a number of times in the year 1999. G20 was established with the beginning of finance ministers and central bank governors for the economic cooperation. That I told you number of times. And recently we discussed in the editorial about digital public infrastructure. In the editorial recently we discussed about one of the main aims of the G20 is digital public infrastructure. Friends, so these 42 questions for each one of you may be difficult to answer. I fully agree with that. But one important aspect is, if you follow my lectures quite clearly, regularly, and simply without depending only on the handouts, you just listen to whatever I am teaching. And I am teaching current affairs with expansion to domains, various domains, linking with static wherever required. And this is the best way of learning current affairs, learning various aspects as far as civil services is concerned. Whether you listen to me or not, that is different story. But a fact remains a fact. During the past 8 years, I acquired a lot of knowledge pertaining to current affairs. So I am now in a position to explain various aspects in a 360-degree way. Whatever I am teaching, that may not be possible to put in the handouts. So therefore, I teach whatever in my mind with 360-degree view, and to clear your doubt with regard to the remembrance, wherever possible, I am explaining with maps, beautiful maps. I am explaining with the different formats, like answering conceptual questions, like random thoughts, like trends talk, like editorial discussions. And this will immensely benefit you. You may not answer all 42 questions, but if you follow regularly, you get required competitive edge. That is my final point. So learning space will continue to serve this way with high standards and high quality lectures. And for the students, whoever are preparing for future competitive examinations of UPSC, please remember this civil services examination is looking at comprehensive understanding of the student. It is not limited to current affairs of past 6 months or 1 year. Whatever is happening in India and across the world, whether it is economy domain, whether it is political domain, whether it is geopolitical domain, whether it is science and technology, whether it is ecology and environment, whatever it is looking at broader perspective of the student and learning space is well suited for that. So this is all about the analysis, and wishing you all the best. Thank you.